How do you actually make money when you're doing a small move job, what we call express moves, and then you find yourself in a situation where, guess what? The job exceeds the expectations in terms of time, effort, money, and the client needs to pay more. How do you actually collect that money? What's the process? What's the procedure? Stay tuned, I'm going to show you. Hello everyone, it's Joel Davis with United Medical Transportation Providers Group, and YouAreTheBroker.com, helping you to build a highly effective and highly profitable broker business. Thank you all for your great emails. You sent some great questions about the YouAreTheBroker.com training system, how to start your business, get it going, become an active licensee, the training material, etc., in response to the video I just put out the other day. What I want to do, because some of your questions were about what we call express moves. So for those of you who are new to our training opportunity, the YouAreTheBroker.com training system, two of our primary sources of revenue are deliveries. Now, we don't do that small nickel and dime last mile delivery stuff because honestly, just the price point is too low compared to what we're doing now. So we really focus on higher move jobs, higher price point, and the numbers speak for themselves. But the secondary source of revenue, that is our, I would say we're probably doing about 25% of our revenue right now is coming from express moves, which I believe is about 42% of our revenue right now is coming from high-end deliveries, and another 25% coming from express moves. Express moves is what we call those smaller move jobs that typically take 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. You're not going to have a traditional mover that's going to come in and do this. They're not going to send in a large big rig and a crew of 4 or 6 guys. It's just a smaller move job they're not going to do. And it's just a huge underserved market that we just make great money with. So where our deliveries are averaging around $100 plus or minus just a little bit, our express moves are typically averaging around $325, let's say, a little bit over that. We typically bill them in 2-hour increments, and obviously if it runs over, we bill them for it. So how exactly do you do that? So if you didn't watch the previous video I just put out, was it yesterday or the day before, where I literally showed you some of our deliveries, go check that out. That's some really good content, some good information. So what I want to do now, though, is I want to actually jump into, on the computer, I want to jump into our software system, Fetch Mazo, so you could actually see some of our express moves, see how we're making the money, and exactly what do you do when you're in a situation where you book a work order, they estimate it's going to be 2 hours, and next thing you know, it's 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. What do you do? How do you do it? So let's jump into this, and I'm sure you're going to learn something. So let's start by logging into Fetch Mazo, and then I want to look up a specific contractor that had 2 express moves over the last 2 days. I want to show you something interesting. Okay, so this is one of our contractors, and here's what's awesome. You can see over the last 3 days, over the last 3 days, he's done 30 deliveries, 2 express moves, a labor-only job. He's done a total of 33 work orders. Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. This is a classic example where I've talked about in previous videos. I know with all certainty, 100% fact, there's no way this contractor did all these work orders because some of them were at the same time. So I know with all certainty he is further subbing out some of this work, which I have no problem with. As the owner of this broker business, I have no problem with it as long as the work gets done and it gets done properly. So you can see that he's done 30 deliveries, 2 express moves, a labor-only job, bringing in, this is good revenue. This is good revenue. Now the earned revenue is what I've made. So you could say, all right, you're not making a whole lot. Well, I'm going to take this 943 over the last 3 days, every day of the week and twice on Sunday, especially considering that as I'm shooting this video, I'm actually up in New York and he's down in Carolina. So I just love this. So he is actually, he's averaging through his work orders, he's averaging a little less than 77%. He's at 76.85%. And the reason why is I actually pay different rates of commission on different types of work. So I know that he's getting 70% plus for the deliveries. He's getting upwards of 85 for the express moves and for the labor only. So you could see in total, all these things would average out to 76.85. So, and right now, so my business over these last 3 days from February 3rd to the 4th, I'm averaging paying out a commission of 73.77%. And obviously, that's a really no big deal for me. That's just for my own well-being. But because obviously I pay my contractors differently, especially the new ones coming in, for deliveries. I'm gonna start them at 65% and continue to bump them up 1 point at a time as they get better and better. The more trips they do, the greater their service rating and their compliance rating. But I want to show you something interesting. Let's go ahead and we're going to pick on this contractor because he just did these last two express moves. So let's click on this and I'm going to show you something interesting. Okay, so obviously I'm going to have to send this video over to my video guy before we publish this so he could obviously go through and edit out the emails and the addresses and information like that for our customers. So we got to protect their information. But so we're going to go ahead, we're going to look at these two work orders that he did over the last 2 or 3 days. So let's go ahead and click on this first one here. Okay. So this first one, I would say the vast majority of our express moves, when people either book them online or over the phone. Now I know that they did this one over the phone because we charge the $10 customer surcharge. So I know that we charge $10 customer surcharge if someone calls in, processes a work order over the phone. In the previous video, I talked about we have a customer surcharge 1 and a customer surcharge 2. If it's a lower end store, if we're doing delivery, then if you'll recall, if you watched that video, the interface was a little bit different. You could see where we had customer surcharge 1, customer surcharge 2. For customer surcharge 2, for a lower end store, we only charge $5 for the customer surcharge when someone calls over the phone to process a work order. So of this $220, I know I'm only going to pay out commission on $210 because I don't pay commission on customer surcharges. You'll also notice I don't do hassle-free insurance. We only do those on deliveries. We don't do those on express moves and labor-only jobs. So of the $210, we're going to pay out commission. Now this work order, let's see, they scheduled it on the 2nd. They performed it on the 3rd. They had 4 rooms. They traveled from point A to point B. It was a total of 16 miles. Estimated 2 hours. Obviously, we fell within that 2-hour time frame. We charge for 2 contractors, we're going to have $105 on this location now. In some of our other locations, those prices will vary, and that's the good thing about Fetch Mazos. Depending on where you are, you could, in your rate management, you could change the pricing in different locations. So, but in this specific area, for 2 guys per hour, it's $105. Hence, the 2-hour minimum would total $210. So this work order completed was within the 2-hour time frame. They completed it. He made commission of $178.50. So you're saying, Joel, you don't make a whole lot of money on that. True, there's some truth to that. There's no question. My commission for Joel Davis, there's no question. I make more money on deliveries than I do express moves. In terms of deliveries are shorter. They're typically much shorter in duration for time to completion as compared to an express move. But again, I want my contractors making as much as possible. So they just appreciate the business, they appreciate the opportunity, and what happens is you're going to see your contractors just literally build your business for you because we relieve them of all the hassles, headaches, and heartaches, and all the money flows through you, so you get paid first. So I got no problem. I want my guys making as much money as possible, and on top of this, I'm sure he made a nice little tip. So I mean, realistically, my contractors on some work orders, they could be making 100% plus of everything when you factor in their tips. And I got no problem with that. Because again, he's doing this down in Carolina somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where because obviously I'm not familiar with these addresses. I'm sitting up in New York, so I got no problem with it. And I welcome the opportunity. Let my contractors make as much money as possible. But I want to show you something interesting. Let's go to the next work order. Okay, so this is a second work order. You'll see it, the interface is the exact same. New work order. So here's what's interesting. Estimated 2 hours. So again, we booked him at the same thing, 220, $10 customer surcharge. So I already know, looking at this, that they did this over the phone. They didn't book it online. So that means they called up one of my dispatchers and booked it over the phone. That's great. So we charged the $10. But here is what's interesting: the additional charge amount. So this happens frequently. This is where the software is absolutely critical. It's a crutch for your contractors, your dispatchers. It's for everybody. So obviously this person called up and said, okay, we'll do 2 hours. It's probably going to be a 2-hour job. But so many times you get involved in a job and that customer will call up. They're going to want something for nothing. And I'm not trying to belittle anyone's intentions or anything, but they just underestimate the job. Man, did they underestimate this job. Because look at the additional charges. The additional charges were $555. So we went from 220 plus 555. So we're up at close to $800. I mean, this is crazy. So they crazy went over. So I don't know the particulars of this trip. They only went less than 6 miles away. So 5.65 miles. This was a shorter move job than the work order I just showed you previously. 4 rooms. But guess what? Where it was an estimated 2 hours by the customer, clearly this went overboard. And so what happens literally is when they hit that 2-hour mark, my contractors, I mean, they go and they tell that client, look, man, we're not done. You obviously see we're not done. So this is going to run into additional charges. And I got good contractors. It's not like they're going to be lollygagging around or anything like that. And again, this work order went from an initial 220 to upwards of close to $800. So this contractor's commission went from $178.50 to an additional $471.75. How happy do you think this contractor is? I mean, this contractor, sure, it ran over, but that's okay. But guess what? The longer it runs, and of course, he's working hard. He's not wasting time. He's not dilly-daddling around. Ching ching, I mean, he's making money. So this work order was scheduled on the 2nd, and they actually performed this one yesterday. Great. So again, the additional charges feature, let's take a quick look at that. So the additional charges, this is a functionality that, your contractors, this will populate on your desktop, or it's also on the app. So if your contractors are using a cell phone or a tablet, again, you want them in the position that if they're doing a express move and you get to a position where you realize, you know what, this is going to exceed the initial estimate, that's where you go to the customer and you politely say, look, obviously we're running overboard. This is going to incur additional cost. If we go back to the original work order, you can see the additional charges automatically tabulate inside the work order itself, and that's what you want. This is where the software is absolutely critical. So I get it, man. You could run some of these businesses and kind of structure this business model on your own, and that's fine if you want to stay small and do this yourself. But there is no way you can grow and scale your business without leveraging technology. You need software, and this is where Fetch Mazda is just the backbone of what we're doing. I mean, you saw our trip volume, our delivery volume, express moves. There's just no way that we could manage all these contractors and all these work orders without having a software system. And this is why when you look at this specific work order, this is where our contractors absolutely leverage the heck out of the software and the apps, because this is money in their pocket. Understand, when they go to perform an express move and they realize this is going to run well beyond the initial 2 hours, we need to make sure we collect money. You, the customer, if you want me, the contractor, to finish this job, this is money in my pocket. So you got to be willing to pay this. So how do you actually collect that money to guarantee that everyone is getting paid, everything is above board, no one's getting shortchanged, and there's full transparency? This is where the technology is key. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, thank you so much for all your emails. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any more questions about the YouAreTheBroker.com training system or our training material.